Welcome back to my channel. My name is Aika and I'm an incoming trainee clinical psychologist at the University of Oxford this year. And today I'm going to be spilling some tea on psychology degrees, so hashtag psychology. I'm here to expose psychology degrees. It is a very solemn subject for me, given that I am a psychology veteran. I went to Cambridge for my bachelor's degree in psychology. I graduated with a first, then I went into kind of clinical psychology for my master's, and then now I'm going into doctorate. I just wanted to put it out there that whilst it looks great from my side, it's actually not the best subject to do. So I think the bottom line of this video is that don't do it. No, I'm joking. Just to think about these things before you choose psychology, because there's so many issues of it, and I feel like if I knew all of this, it would definitely have discouraged me from doing psychology. Whilst my journey looks really promising, please take it as more credibility from my side to say that it's not the best degree to do at university. So the first point is psychology degrees are kind of a bogus degree, and I'm really sad to say this, but in the UK I found that there are around 100,000 undergraduate psychology students right now. So it's a very popular subject in undergraduate, but at the same time there's not a lot of jobs going around for psychology students. So a lot of people actually don't utilize their psychology skills, you know, whatever we get from our psychology degrees, into the job market. So in terms of employability, it's a very dire and pessimistic world for us psychologists out there. Psychology degrees are not very employable unless you stay within psychology, which again is problematic, which I'll explore later on. But if you want just a generic job, it's a very difficult thing to make your psychology stand out in and of itself. Now this sounds very, I guess, brutal, but this is coming from me having graduated for 3 to 4 years now. I can see all the Cambridge psychologists coming out and still struggling to find a job. And I can imagine for those who study psychology in non-Russell Group universities, it's even more of a struggle to kind of prove your value in the job market. The reason why psychology degrees are very unemployable, it's not that psychology degrees are bad inherently, it's just that a lot of psychology degrees are theory oriented. So that means that a lot of things are kind of wish-wash and there's not a lot of specific or transferable skills. And that's still also true if you're thinking about becoming a psychologist. Not a lot of undergraduate psychology is actually applied to clinical psychology or any kind of practical skills that you get to, I guess, help people. Right, second tea to spill is that even if you do feel like going into psychology, so becoming a psychologist or becoming an academic, there are still huge issues around this, unfortunately. So it's not all rosy and nice if you say like, hey, none of this matters. I don't want to go into the corporate world. I want to help people. I want to do research. Yeah, that's amazing. A psychology degree can definitely be the best first step, and a lot of actually PhDs and also training psychologist courses require you to have a first degree in psychology. So that's bloody wonderful, but at the same time there's such a huge funnel neck of psychology students wanting to do these jobs. As I said, there's around 100,000 or 60,000 people doing their undergraduates as of right now, that it's extremely competitive and you have to do extremely well in your psychology degree and do things on top of that in order to excel in psychology in some way. So that also means that there's no guarantee, so you can't just come out of psychology degree and be like, yep, like I can definitely get onto that doctorate or I can definitely get onto that PhD. There's such huge competition of people who are extremely keen in this topic that you have to be competing from day one pretty much. Let me just tell you how long it takes to get to become a clinical psychologist. So for me, it was 3 years of undergraduate degree, and then I did a master's, so that's 1 year of master's, and then I did around 2 years of work, and then that's another 3 years of doctorate until I actually graduate and become a clinical psychologist. So that's 3 years plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, that's 9 years. 9 years of study in order to become a clinical psychologist by the end of it, and that's really the actual bottom line. So I'm actually very speedy with this race, but actually a lot of people take 4 to 5 years to get onto the doctorate, so that increases the amount of time to become a clinical psychologist to around 13 years at least. So really think about it when you think about, okay, yeah, I want to be a psychologist. How realistic is that goal, and are you willing to make that sacrifice and be able to deal with that amount of uncertainty of not really knowing whether you'll get on? On the other hand, if you want to do a psychology PhD and become a psychology researcher, that's also great. It's also equally competitive to get the ones that are good, obviously, and also PhD stipends are like 12 to 16,000. Whilst it might sound a lot if you're a high school student or an undergrad, it's really not enough, especially if you're living in places like London. Are you willing to sacrifice, I guess, quality of life and I guess, you know, being able to not compare yourself to other people of your same age group in order to do something that you really, really love? So the main point here is that if you're doing a psychology degree just cause, you're gonna come out of that degree being as unsure as you came into the psychology degree. Right, the sadness doesn't end here. Doesn't end here. Sadly, even if you have done all the things that are good, so you've gotten a first-class degree and then you go into do a lot of work experience during the degree and you know exactly what you want for your psychology degree and you love it, at the end of the day you're not going to earn a lot of money, to be honest. Let's say, so just now I just talked about how it takes around 10 to 13 years to become a clinical psychologist. By the end of that you'll be earning 30k, 36k, something like that. Whereas someone graduating from their undergraduate degree and going into, I don't know, consultancy or becoming a lawyer, they will get that money at that point. So again, I don't want it to be very money focused, but I think when you grow older, you are more and more aware of what you can be doing with that money. And it does become a huge factor of why you would be doubting your career choice. I'm just putting it out there. It might sound a bit blunt or a bit not classy to talk about employment and talk about money in this way, but you gotta know what you're signing up for. And even when you become a really, really good psychologist or really, really good researcher and you say, oh, I want to be a professor in psychology, then yeah, good luck on that. It's really hard to get anything that's permanent in academia now, let alone being a professor. Another tea to spill. Given how holistic a psychology degree is, it also means that we're not really good at anything at all, really. So we study loads of things. So one of the big components, it might be biological psychology, so neuroscience-y stuff. Again, we're not as good as a neuroscientist coming from a natural sciences background that may have more chemistry or biology background to help them with that. We are trained for stats. Again, we're not as good as mathematicians or econs who also want to go into stats. If an economist wants to do behavioral sciences, they are in a much better place than someone who's doing psychology, unless you're a psychology person who's really good at math, if that makes sense. So there's an overlap there, but most of us aren't very good at maths. I'm just going to put that generalization out there. I guess my point here is that you're not really good at anything. You're knowledgeable about everything enough, but it doesn't give you any competitive edge in any discipline. So once you come out, you're competing with other people who have much better transferable skills than you do. Another point about the psychology degree in and of itself, I tutor a lot of people from the age of 15 to around 25. And what I realized for the younger ages, the people who want to get into psychology for their degrees, they're often very interested in very niche things. So right now I'm just going to expose psychology degrees for you. I'm sorry, it's not as interesting as you think it is. If you're watching this and you're like, I want to study psychology because I am interested in criminology and I love serial killers and I watch a lot of serial killer documentaries, trust me, I hear this a lot. Girl or guy, you are in for a ride because it's not going to be that. Just loads of things that you might not have signed up for, and the biggest one is statistics. Now statistics, ironically, is like the most employable part of psychology compared to other humanities. However, it's also the least interesting thing, at least in my opinion. So it's ironically the most transferable skill that you can have, but at the same time it's a mandatory thing that you have to do if your psychology degree is accredited by the British Psychological Society. Let's say you're watching this as an undergrad, I'm sure there's quite a lot of you out there, or watching this as a master's student or someone who's already got into psychology for the university. I'm not saying that, you know, it's a hellhole. I'm just saying that if you do want to do it, know exactly what you want to get out of it. It's one of those degrees that are so general that you must specify for yourself. Psychology is one of those things where you have to define what it is that you want to do with that degree. So for example, if let's say you think that you want to become a consultant, yes, psychology can be very helpful, but what you have to do is, as soon as you decide that, let's say within the first year, within the second year, you have to get some kind of summer internship. So this is true for not just psychology degrees, but all humanities subjects, and arguably some science subjects as well, or actually most degrees in 2020. But nowadays, degrees don't really matter anymore. It's just another ticket. So I feel like academic degrees have inflated. It's almost like high school now. So it doesn't really mean much that you graduated from university anymore compared to before. So what's the most important thing that makes you stand out is what you do during the summer to show what your interests are and to show that you are dedicated to the field or to the area that you're interested in. The people that I know that study psychology in Cambridge, the people who wanted to go into consultancy, they would have definitely done some summer internships in consultancy firms in between, and then afterwards also get really good grades, and then do really well in interviews, etc. If, let's say, you want to be a psychology researcher, then you have to be doing some summer research internships as well, obviously unpaid usually, doing a lot of those just to gather as much edge as possible to compete with other psychology students. If you wanted to get into clinical mental health or become a clinical psychologist, what you would want to do is to maximize the time that you are spending doing clinical work. If you want to stay in psychology, so make use of your psychology degree, what you have to do is get a master's or get a graduate degree. So psychology degrees are basically nothing in and of itself. Most people don't really think about this until they get to their second or third year and realize that there's literally nothing out there for me. That's my realization as well in my second year, and yeah, it's not fun. It's really not fun. Don't do it, kids. So, bottom line for psychology degrees, if you are doing it just because, don't do it. Do something else, please. I beg you. Do something with more transferable skills, with less people doing it, because psychology is an oversaturated field with lots of people who are keen. If you do still decide that psychology is the right subject for you simply because of intellectual enjoyment, then I really recommend you to make the most of the time throughout your undergraduate degree by taking the time to really decide and try out or experiment different kind of internships to show that you are engaged in whatever field that you want. If you are waiting to decide later, a recommendation from me as someone who's come out of the other end and watching other psychology students do the same, it doesn't get clearer when you graduate. Honestly, you are just as confused going in as you are going out. So if you are waiting for the moment to decide, at some point I'll know which specialty I'll go into, no, like, sorry, you just got to decide, and if that mistake is wrong, that's fine. You have experience there and you can swap fields. At least you have some kind of basis there. You can't just do a degree and expect things to come to you. You have to just attack things randomly until you get to the right thing. If you are already doing a degree now and want to stand out as a psychology graduate, getting a good grade will be the best foot in the door for the rest of the things that you want to do in your life. I hope that this video hasn't left you too despondent. It's not all roses and rainbows. Rainbows and unicorn doing a psychology degree. It's not really fun. You don't get much money. You're not very employable. Even if you are, you have to do very well in your psychology degree. So just think about those things before you do it. So thank you so much for watching today. I'm sorry that this had to be quite like a brutal video, but someone had to say it, right? If you enjoy these kind of more honest videos, please leave me a like, subscribe to my channel, comment down below what you think about psychology degrees and whether you disagree with any of my points, and follow me on Instagram if you are more interested in more psychology/mental health related things, or also to follow my journey a little bit closer. And I'll see you next time. Bye.